Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are going to head over to Finland once again for the first time in what feels like a good long while. So that means that we are going to kick off our next round of Riku box reviews. So first and foremost, a massive shout out and thank you to Riku Sanaxanaho, my Finnish beer mule. He's the one that is responsible for pretty much all of the Finnish reviews that you'll find here on Rampant Lion Reviews. He always sends me some great stuff. He's shown me that the Finnish beer scene is pretty damn awesome. It's just not talked about enough. So hopefully these videos that I do here on the channel go somewhat to making people think a little bit more about Finnish beer. And it's really cool to introduce these breweries to you here on the channel as well. But yeah, the one that we're going to have a look at today is, it's from a brewery that I've never tried anything from before. It's a style that I very much enjoy and one that I've been getting really into again over the last couple of years. But this brewery is also a very interesting company, and we'll talk about that in a little minute. So needless to say, I'm very curious to see what this one is going to have in store for us. Hopefully it's another good beer. Hopefully it makes for an interesting review. And as always, I hope that you guys enjoy my take on this one as well. So yeah, for this review then, we are going to head up toward Oulu, Riku's hometown in the northwest of Finland. We're going to go out to the island of Hailuoto, if I've pronounced that correctly. And I do apologise for any bad Finnish pronunciations in this video. It's an absolutely crazy language, but that's another subject. But we're going to go to the Hailuoto island, and we're going to have a look then at my first beer from Hailuodon Panimo. So this particular beer is called Tarri Classic Pils. It comes in at 5% ABV, and this one, I think you know what style it is from the name. But yeah, these guys are a certified organic brewery, the first of their kind in Finland. And yeah, you guys know that I love a good Pilsner beer. So I think Riku made a good choice in sending me this one. But yeah, let's crack on with this and see what we have. So, as always with my reviews then, I'll tell you a wee bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting though, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that hopefully I can do in the future from Hailuodon Panimo. First time we're encountering these guys on the channel, as I mentioned, but there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The support you give is hugely appreciated, and remember, you can go into the channel homepage and search for beer that's interesting to you based on geography. Put in your hometown or whatever to the search bar and something should hopefully pop up if we've done videos on that beer in the channel. And yeah, you can check out the playlist of beers from different countries too. You'll find this one in the Finnish playlist, and that will be getting added to quite a little bit over the next wee while. But yeah, let's crack on then and have a look at my brewery notes. And these are Riku's notes, incidentally, that I've just rearranged a little bit. So thank you again to him for pulling all this information together for me. So yeah, to tell you a little bit about Hailuodon Panimo then. So as I've mentioned to you already, Hailuodon Panimo is based on the island of Hailuoto, about 50 kilometres from Oulu in the northwest of Finland, but about 7 kilometres from mainland Finland at the nearest point. So it's the largest island in the Bay of Bothnia, which is the one, of course, between Sweden and Finland, but it's the only inhabited island which doesn't actually have a road connection to the mainland. They are apparently planning to build an 8.4 kilometre bridge which connects it, but this is being opposed by environmentalists. But Hailuoto is actually quite a large island. It's about 200 square kilometres, but it has only 955 inhabitants. The brewery itself, though, the men behind the brewery are Kimmo Kaukonen, who is the CEO, Paavo Sippola, Timo Heikkilä, and Jürgen Hendelmeier. And Paavo and Timo are locals. They're from the island. But in 2017, together, they bought an old log warehouse, they renovated it, and they ordered brewing equipment from Waxman Brautechnik down in Germany. But the CEO of Waxman, Joost Waxman, visited their brewery, and he really loved the test batches of beers that they produced, and so he decided to help them with actually getting their brewery off the ground, and he even went on to become a shareholder in the company. But none of the guys behind the brewery had actually brewed beer before they started it, and this is usually a recipe of disaster, but they learned very quickly with the help of friends and, of course, Joost Waxman as well. But Hailuodon Panimo, as I mentioned to you earlier, is the first fully organic brewery in Finland. They use Hailuoto groundwater and wind energy to produce mainly German-style traditional beers. But their brewery is located at an old warehouse, as we've said. They've got a 3,000 litre brew kit in there, and their fermentation capacity is about 24,000 litres. But the quality of the water on the island is apparently the main reason that they chose to concentrate on lagers, and it's quite close. The water quality is apparently quite close to that is found in Pilsen in the Czech Republic, which, as we know, is the home of Pilsner. That's where it was invented. But the barley is grown locally on Hailuoto, and then it's malted nearby on the mainland by Pienpanimo-olut, if I'm pronouncing that right, and they order the hops from an organic farm in Germany. You know, hops are not produced that much in Finland, so yeah, we can let them away with that. But they also have a restaurant and tap room and a bottle shop at the brewery, which is a quite popular location during the summer. The island itself is very popular for tourists during the summer, apparently, and there are constantly two ferries sailing between the mainland and the island. But in the summer, apparently, there are huge lines to get on these, and you have to wait for hours before you actually get on to the ferry. But locals have a right of way, so they can go and come. They can come and go as they please. But this means though that tourists do have to wait for quite a wee while. But in the winter, there's an ice road you can drive across freely, and yeah, it seems like it would be quite an interesting place to visit. If you look at the pictures of it, it does look pretty damn nice. But Hailuodon Panimo also has a restaurant and tap room called Malasa Sauna in Pikisari, which is near the city centre of Oulu. So this is maybe something I'll need to check out when I do go and visit Riku in Oulu itself. We met in Helsinki last time. But as of November 2022, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced 20 different kinds of beer according to Untappd. They are mostly lagers, but they have also produced Berliner Weisse, Gose and Hefeweizen as well, actually. So yeah, we'll need to have a wee look at some of the other beers that these guys are producing at some point in the future. But I think actually going to visit the brewery and trying out their restaurant during the summer could be a really interesting thing. I don't know if Riku knows anyone that lives on the island that could get us across quickly or whatever, but yeah, that would definitely be quite cool. So yeah, as I say, that's everything I can tell you about Hailuodon Panimo for the moment. If you want to learn more about these guys, you can of course check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn a little bit more about all the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, let's crack on and have a wee look at this beer itself. So as you can see, this is a litre bottle, so this is going to be quite nice. I don't actually have a Stein glass that I could have put this into, because that would have been quite nice. But yeah, this 1 litre bottle, I don't know exactly how much this cost actually, but yeah, it is quite nicely presented. You'll find bottles like this in Germany, and you can see it's got one of the pop top things on it, which is why when we took it out on the stream, Riku had taped it down. Oh, I told you lies actually, it's a 0.75. I thought this was 1 litre, but yeah, it's a 0.75 litre bottle, this one. So we should get 2 nice glasses of it out of this one. But yeah, 5% Pilsner beer, this one, the Tarri Classic Pils. Let's see what this one is going to have in store for us. This should be pretty good. So let's hope that this doesn't explode. It's actually not. That was the thing. I was a bit worried it was going to get agitated during the journey from Oulu down to me here in Lund. So let's just be careful with this. So here we go. Look at the head on that though. That's lovely. Just be careful with it. And there we are. Yes. So yeah, I have to say, that does look pretty damn awesome. So yeah, anyway, this will be interesting to try. So you can see that the beer is poured with about 2 fingers of a frothy, I would say perfect white head actually, but look at the foam on that. That is beautiful. Kind of wish I had my Pilsner Urquell glass that I have back in Scotland with this one. I wish I kind of had that, but look at the foam on that. That's absolutely beautiful. But yeah, lovely hazy, natural haze to this one. So in terms of colour, this one's actually a very rich yellow, kind of maybe very, very slightly amber. Remember, the colour of your beer depends on 1, the type of malts that you use. This goes a long way to determining your EBC rating. 2, length of your wort ball is also going to play a role. The longer you boil the wort, the more the sugar is caramelised, thus you get a darker colour of beer. Any barrel aging you do or any adjuncts you put in will affect the colour of the beer as well for the most part, but when it comes to pilsners and lagers generally actually, you don't often have to care about that. But yeah, lovely colour to this one. Quite, you know, it has got quite a bit of active carbonation visible in it, which you could tell it was going to from the head when it poured, but it looks very, very nice. And as I say, when you look at this beer, if I put my fingers behind the glass there, you can see it has that little bit of natural haze to it. No real sediment visible, but you probably will get some sediment down toward bottom of the bottle there, but it certainly does look very, very nice. Nice natural haze to it. So yeah, it looks good. It does look very, very nice, this one. And nothing surprising about this beer appearance-wise when you consider what style it is. This is pretty much as you would expect a Pilsner beer. The German ones, of course, will be quite often kind of see-through and unhazy. The German Pilsners, for me, from a flavour profile perspective, tend to be more kind of clean and crisp, whereas the Czech ones tend to be a little bit more kind of smooth and bready. They're more yeasty, basically. But yeah, in terms, I think this one is supposed to be a Czech style Pilzen rather than a German Pilsner, but yeah, should be quite nice regardless. So it looks the part. Let's have a wee look at the aroma and just see what we get from this one. Oh yeah, that does smell pretty damn nice. One thing I found when I lived in Germany, I found that when you had organic Pilsners, the malt just tasted, it had a little bit of a slightly different mouthfeel to it when you had these organic beers. So I'm curious to see if we get that in this one. But I'm going to say straight away, this one does smell really quite interesting. You can tell from the hops right away. I'm pretty sure this is Czech Sats that's in this, because you can just smell that slightly deeper spiciness. The German hops tend to be a little bit brighter, I think, whereas the Czech ones are a bit more spicy, and it's almost the Slovenian ones like the Styrian Goldings and stuff like that. You can just sort of smell a smoothness to them, and of course you've got Austrian hops there as well from the Upperwiertal and things. But yeah, you can just smell it. This one just has a little bit more of a kind of spicy character to it, but it's giving you everything you want for the style. Just as an overview, it gives you that nice kind of sort of grassy and spicy floral character. You've got a good little bit of maltiness in there, and you have got that kind of crispness that you want from the Pilsner style. So remember, this style originates from Pilsner, Pilzen, whatever you want to call it, in the Czech Republic. Pilsner Urquell was the first Pilsner. It was invented by a German brewmaster who moved from Bavaria to Pilsen, but he was kicked out because he was a bit of an arsehole from what I remember. 1842, I want to say. Was the time that it was invented, but yeah, that could be wrong. But yeah, lager beer, of course, remember, bottom fermenting yeast, low temperature fermentation. There's lots of different lagers. Pilsner is just one kind of a lager, of course. But yeah, aroma wise, this is very nice. So we'll break it down a bit more. Of course, backbone of the beer, you get a little bit of that fresh white bready bread crust in there. You can smell the crispness of the Pilsner malt, mainly toward the back of the nose, in the top of the back of the nose. So yeah, a little bit of fresh bread crust, a little bit of Pilsner malt, as we say. You can just get that little bit of crispness. On top of the bread crust, there's definitely a good little bit of white bread in this one. You can smell that it's quite a fluffy and quite light and airy white bread. On top of that, there is a little touch of sort of caramel, Werther's Original butter candy sort of thing. There's a wee bit of a McVitie's digestive biscuity character as well. Yeah, so a wee bit of caramel, a wee bit of butter candy, a little bit of McVitie's digestive biscuit. Yeah, I think that goes together really quite well. So yeah, McVitie's digestive biscuit, sweet caramel. Is there anything else? Nah, it's actually quite a straight shooting beer, this one, in terms of its malt base. Just the bread crust, the fluffy white bread, the sweet caramel, bit of biscuit, maybe a little bit of butter candy, butterscotch. You do have a little bit of a Jacob's cream crackery note to it in places. There's maybe a little touch of like a wholemeal brown bready character in there as well. But otherwise, I think that covers the malt base for the most part. On the hoppy side of things, it is kind of what you'd expect. As I say, I'm pretty sure it's I was going to say, I realised I've just made a stupid statement earlier. I said, oh, it smells like Czech Sats hops, but we know that the hops come from an organic farm in Germany. So, but I don't know, maybe they do grow organic Sats at the farm. You never know. But yeah, for me, the hoppy character with this one, you do get a little bit of earthiness there. You can tell there's a fair little bit of early edition hopping in this one, because the hoppy character, I think this is going to be maybe 30, 40 IBUs as a Pilsner. I think it will have a good little bit of bitterness to it, because you can smell the hoppy character in this one. It's quite deep and it's quite floral in a sense, and it's interesting because the hops in this beer actually smell quite similar to the ones from Krongården's here in Skåne, because we get the Skåne Pilsner Remilov Gorge Brewery. It's the hoppy character in this beer really reminds me of that actually. You've got this deep floral note to it, but at the same time it's got a little bit of spiciness at the front of the nose. You've also got a good little bit of grassy, you've got a little bit of grassy zestiness to this beer as well, which is kind of interesting. And then you've got the fruity character behind that. I mean, the fruity side of this beer for me is quite, the fruity side of the beer for me is, it's got a little bit of that kind of oily peary character. There's a little touch of gooseberry to it. A little touch of gooseberry, a little touch of a peary kind of thing, and a wee bit of an appley character as well. So yeah, I mean, I do really like how this beer goes about its business in that sense. It gives you a little bit of everything, actually. So it gives you everything you would expect from the style, and it's got its own kind of little quirks as well. And yeah, some of the breadiness I think in this beer is coming from the yeasty character, because they will no doubt have their own sort of house yeasts that they've developed and things like that. But yeah, the hoppy notes in this one, as I say, it's kind of more spicy like Czech Sats, but they are German organic grown hops. And it does remind me of the stuff from Krongårdens here in Skåne, which is kind of interesting. So as I always say, take a wee bit of time to enjoy the aroma of the beer before you get stuck into it, but I think it is about time that we have a taste of this beer then. So yeah, this one is the Tarri Classic Pilsner from Hailuodon Panimo on Hailuoto near Oulu in the northwest of Finland. Our first beer in the next round of Riku beer reviews. Slange, skål, cheers, or as they say in Finland, kipis. Ooh, that's quite nice. Quite different actually. Different to what I was thinking it would be from the aroma. Sometimes you get beers, of course, that are very close to what you would expect from the aroma, and sometimes they're not. But this beer, the first impression I have of this to me feels very, very clean. And this is one thing you often find with Nordic beers, is that you get the flavour profile you expect, but the beer just feels so clean because of how high quality the water is. But yeah, it's so easy to drink that, which is of course what you want from a pilsner. Yeah, this is nice. This is nice actually. It is just very, very clean, very easy to drink, and you start to get the pilsner. This is kind of an interesting one, because when you drink it at the start, it's very light, it's very clean, as I say, but then the pilsner flavour sort of comes out in the aftertaste almost. It's a really interesting thing, and this is why I enjoy reviewing beers, because you always find little quirks about each one. So yeah, way that this goes together, I think is really interesting. Yeah. So where do we start with this then? So we'll do as we always do. Middle third of the palate, backbone of the beer. So yeah, the backbone of this beer then, middle third of your palate, so you can feel the backbone of the beer gives you that little bit of it does give you that little bit of fresh white bready bread crust. You can absolutely feel that in this one. And it gives you a little bit of greeniness the further you go into the aftertaste as well. On top of that, you've got this layer of like Jacob's kind of cream cracker type quality, which is interesting. And I would say that this one, the further you go into the aftertaste with this beer, the drier the malt base gets. So yeah, so fresh white bread crust, layer of like Jacob's cream cracker, and then on top of that you get a kind of thinner, crisp layer of fresh white bread in there. But on top of that, you're starting to get more of the kind of pilsner type. Well, not that those aren't pilsner type qualities, but anyway, you start to get a little bit more of the kind of sweetness out of the beer. So if you go to the dead centre of your palate, right in the middle of your tongue, there is a little bit of a kind of straight up caramel there. And the interesting thing about this beer for me is that I was picking up quite a little bit of, butterscotch, butter candy out of this one earlier on. but you don't get that in the beer. It's actually, as I say, very, very clean. I had a feeling that this beer, just from the aroma, and when I thought about the other organic pilsners I'd had when I was in Germany, I think it was the Heidelberger Klosterbrauerei that was close to me, that all of their beers were certified organic. Um, they just, I had a kind of impression of this beer that it was going to be a little bit like sort of almost chalky in the mouth feel. It was going to be, you know, quite thick and bready, and the floral notes were going to be like very, very smooth. But this beer is not really like that at all. The organic beers that I had actually in Germany, I wasn't madly impressed with, but this one I think is pretty damn solid actually. So yeah, as I say, the malt base in this one is interesting though. Is it, this beer comes across quite differently in the flavour in some aspects to what you would think it's going to be from the aroma. But we'll put a little bit more in and we'll see. But this is, it's a very easy beer to drink, this one. So like I say, in the middle of your palate you've got this little bit of you do have this little bit of sweet caramel in the dead centre of your palate. Then as you move further out from that, it's a little bit more kind of McVitie's digestive. It's got a little bit more of a kind of McVitie's digestive biscuit to it. And then so you do, yeah, a little bit of sweet caramel, a little bit of McVitie's digestive biscuit, and yeah, the way that goes together is quite nice. And it's, as I say, this beer really gives you that kind of crisp vibe. So what you'll notice is that as you go, if you come further forward on that middle third of your palate, there's a little touch of woodiness to the beer. But you've also got a little bit of a more, if you go to the back of that middle third of your palate, you start to get the crispness from the Pilsner malt. So you'll feel in that border region between middle third and back third of your palate, you get a little bit of a kind of build up in there, and then you get all the crispness and dryness from the Pilsner malt. So that's quite interesting. And we do have to remember as well that this is local malt that's used in here. So that's one of the other things that's going to be quite unique and quite different about this beer, because the bready character, it feels very light and airy, but at the same time it's just got a little bit more of a grainy character to it as well. So this is the other thing. This is what you say, you can play with every single ingredient of beer, and you know, you've got, if you think about malt, you've got different water and soil profiles all across the world. So if you grow the same malt variety in a different place, it's going to taste different. It will. And you can taste that in this beer. So you know this is a pilsner, but the way the malty flavours come out, the exact composition of these flavours is slightly different. This is why I love doing these videos and trying stuff from different places, because you do start to notice things that are similar and different in different areas. So yeah, this is very nice in that sense. So as I say, you go to the back of that middle third of your palate, you've got that nice crisp kind of Pilsner malt. We're going to focus now on the back third of the palate with this beer. So yeah, we've got the bread crust in the base. The bread crust in the base is still there. It's a little bit more grainy. Of course, remember, grainy flavours and bitter flavours come out a bit further back on the palate, whereas sweeter and smoother ones come out further forward. On top of that, you have the more, as I say, you have the more yeah, you've got that kind of more grainy backbone to the beer. On top of that bread crusty note, you can get the Jacob's cream cracker again, and again that feels a bit drier, but then on top of that you get the white breadiness, and the white bready layer is of course taller on the back third of the palate, and you've got all the Pilsner malt kind of sitting in between, which I do quite like. But then above all of that, you have a little bit of a more you start to get some of the more sort of yeasty characters out of the beer. So above that kind of thicker and more dense white bread, you get a light, airy bread, and it's got a little touch of like woodiness to it, maybe a very slight like honeycomb or something like that. So yeah, back third of your palate, bread crust, Jacob's cream cracker, white bread, then you've got the Pilsner malt dryness that comes up and just goes over that layer. Then above that little Pilsner malt thing, that's where you start to get the kind of more airy, bready, yeasty sort of things. coming out of the beer. So yeah, back third of the palate, you can feel the flavour is a lot taller. Then as you come further forward, the flavour, it just condenses down a wee bit and squashes together. So yeah, I like the way that this that the beer goes together. So yeah, I think this is this one, the malty side of this beer certainly is very, very nice. Let's go on to the hoppy side of things then to round off. So yeah, the hop. One thing I will say about the hops is that they're not quite as, you know, deep and floral as I was expecting they would be based on the aroma. So at the back corners of the palate, you definitely get a little touch of earthiness in there. But as you move further forward, it's got a little bit of a more floral aromatic sort of thing. So yeah, a little bit of earthiness, a little bit of a more kind of floral aromatic type quality to it. And then yeah, it's a little bit kind of spicy and stuff like that. So yeah, you've got a little bit of a floral kind of. I'm just thinking, so it's earthy. You come forward a little bit. There's maybe a tiny little bit of herbal character in there, but yeah, as you reach the front corners of the palate, it really is. It's got a bit of deeper floral character to it, and it's also a bit spicy too. But round the front curve of the palate, you've got that nice little bit of lighter and kind of grassy sort of thing to the beer as well. So yeah, you've got that nice kind of. You do have that nice sort of grassy type thing as well around the front curve of your tongue. So nicely, kind of wet grassy character in there, fresh, you know, wet, freshly cut grass. That's what you get round the front of your tongue there. And it's almost just a little touch zesty as well. So yeah, the hoppy character in this one's interesting, but it's mainly, I think it really leans toward a more kind of deeper, slightly spicy floral character. So that's definitely there too. But let's look at the kind of front third of the palate then. So the border region between front third and middle third of your palate, apparently, you know, you get a little bit of that kind of bready build up again. You can taste a little touch of the Pilsner malt dryness there. Then the base of the front third of your palate is more kind of smooth and quite bready. Then on top of that, you get that nice oily bubble where the juicy fruity esters just roll their way out of the beer. And this one is kind of what you'd expect from the Pilsner as well. So let's just look at those fruity layers. So yeah, fruity. On the fruity side of things then, you have at the back of that front third of your palate, you do have a little bit of a more, at the back of that front third of your palate, you get a little bit of a more kind of oily, peary sort of thing, for sure. Yeah, it's more kind of oily and peary. Then as you move further forward, there's a little tiny touch of apricot in there. And as you reach the front kind of corners, the front half of that front third of your palate, you start to get like a little bit more of a kind of, there's a little bit of an almost gooseberry note underneath, but a fresh green apple on top. So these are all kind of notes that you expect in a Pilsner. You can always find these things. But the fruity character in this one, it's not too oily actually. It's actually more of a dry fruity note that you're getting from this beer. Yeah. So that, yeah, little touch of pear, tiny bit of apricot underneath. Then as you move further forward, you start to get a wee bit of a kind of, there's a little bit in the front half of the front third of your palate, gooseberry underneath and just a little bit of fresh green apple on top of that. It's almost got a very slightly orange character to it as well. So I wonder if there's maybe a little bit of organic sapphire or something in here. German sapphire hop is quite a distinctive one. And I'm just getting a wee bit of that, but the spiciness makes me wonder, it could be, I think this is a slightly higher alpha acid German hop that's in this, you know, maybe, I don't think it's straight up like Hallertau Mittelfrüh or whatever. I think it could be a little bit of, you know, like Pearl or what's the other one, Hercules maybe, it could be something like that. This beer, the spiciness you get out of this, you do get a nice little bit of bitterness to this Pilsner. It makes me wonder if it is something like Pearl or Hercules or whatever. There are a few different varieties of hops in there that are slightly higher alpha acid, and of course you've got the new generation of things like Mandarina Bavaria and Hallertau Blanc and stuff like that as well. So yeah, the fruitiness in this beer it takes a little bit of time for it to come out, and it's a little touch oily, but it's quite interesting nonetheless. I think that's everything we need to say about the flavour of this beer. Let's round off with the mouthfeel, although we talked about that earlier. So like I said, this beer, it's quite, it really is quite, it's quite smooth in a lot of ways, but it's still quite clean at the same time. I would say that this is kind of top end of light body, bottom end of mid body. That's maybe one of the, it is quite clean, but it has the kind of thickness, if you like. It has the sort of yeastiness and thickness that you would expect of a Czech Pilsner. You know, if you go into one of the little brew pubs over there, it kind of reminds me of that. So yeah, I would say kind of, it's one of the slightly heavier bodied Pilsners that I've come across, but at the same time it still feels very, very clean. The carbonation is quite smooth. IBU wise, I think this one is your sort of standard 30. IBU is potentially a little bit higher than that. The malt base is quite smooth. It's got a little touch of sweetness to it, and yeah, you've also got that little bit of fruity character in this beer as well, which you want. But like I say, a really nice Pilsner beer, this one. The only other thing I would say about the mouthfeel is, you know, the smoothness that you have in this one is something that I have noticed is quite common in organic beers. Like, they almost have this just very slightly chalky type mouthfeel to them, and I don't know if it's to do with the yeast or the way the malt is treated or whatever, but yeah, you always find the malt base in this one, the further you go into the aftertaste for this beer, it just has this little slightly, it's like kind of chalkiness to it, but at the same time it's still a very, very clean beer. But yeah, I think this was very, very nice. So compliments to Hailuodon Panimo for this. The Tarri Pils certainly has my approval. I'll be curious to try a Dunkel and particularly a Schwarzbier or a Tmavi from these guys. I think the mouthfeel they have in this one, it'd be really interesting to see how they would do like a Czech Tmavi actually. So I'll need to talk to Riku about that for the next Riku box, which will probably be in about a year's time or something. But yeah, I think we can leave it at that for this review. So yeah, this one was the Tarri Pils 5% ABV from Hailuodon Panimo on Hailuoto near Oulu in the northwest of Finland. This is your first finished review from the new round of Riku boxes. I'm going to go away and enjoy the rest of this. I can actually feel this one go into my head. I think it's just about lunchtime. I still need to eat lunch. So yeah, I can feel the booze go to my head a little bit with this beer. But I am going to enjoy the rest of this. But once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comments section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Hailuodon Panimo, and we will see about returning to these guys in the very near future. But yeah, my first look at this brewery, Finland's first organic brewery. So until the next time, Slanget Skull, cheers, check out my social media, check out theirs, and I'll see you guys very soon. Slanget Skull, cheers, keepis and kitos.